Okay, so Brennan, we all got to know you a little bit. Now let's really focus in on Valhalla Boys. So Valhalla Boys is coming out through Casemate Publishing, and it's coming out January 15th?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give us a little synopsis of the book?
So in 2004, I joined the Marine Corps. Real quick, I always wanted to be in the military. It was something I always flirted with, thought about. My parents hated the idea. They convinced me to go to college first. They're like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I was like, all right, I'll go to college and then we'll see where I'm at. And I was like, I can always be an officer. And then while I was in college, 9/11 happened. And I can actually remember where I was when it happened and seeing the towers fall in the MUB. And as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, the second college is over, we're out. We're going. And so I got out of college, and the first thing I did is actually I bought a truck, and I traveled the country for 4 months alone, just to make sure I saw all the country that I was about to defend, because I didn't think I was coming home, to be honest. So I did that. I applied, and they said, nope, it's going to be a year before you can be an officer. There's so many people applying. Wow. And I was like, wait, so it's going to be a year to be an officer? They're like, yeah. I was like, all right, I'm going to enlist. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'll see ya. So the next day I went in and enlisted as a normal enlisted man. I didn't know at the time, this is how not foolish I was, but I didn't know anything about the military. I thought everybody just had a rifle. And you're just like, oh, you're all riflemen. So when I went in, they're like, what job do you want? I was like, I don't know, a Marine. They're like, what? They're like, dude, I think there's 240 different jobs in the Marine Corps. I'm like, what do you want? I was like, I don't know, the guy with a gun. Like an infantryman? I was like, sure, that thing. And they're like, well, you have all this, you have your GT scores really high. Let's get you into crypto. Let's get you into IT. And I was like, no, gun. Let's do that one. That's what I had in my head as a little kid. I used to play war in my backyard. That's what I want to do. So I joined, I hate to say sight unseen, but I didn't know it. I was like, yeah, the infantry. Let's do that. So I joined the infantry. I got into the infantry. So I went through infantry training, and about in the middle of the infantry training regiment, so I went through boot camp, got to infantry school. They have what they call a sit-down speech, where the special operations community guy comes in and sits you down, and he's like, hey, do you want to join the special operations? I won't spoil that speech because it's one of my favorite speeches of the book. But I was like, oh, you guys have another level up? Let's try that. So I tried out. I think I 200 sat for it, or 180 sat for it. And I think 50 of us, or 200 were able to sit, only 100 sat for it. 50 of us even tried. And then of those 50, 2 of us made the actual teams and actually went to Iraq. So I don't know, about 3 of us. But so the attrition rate was huge. It was just a really... it was hard. Yeah. It was real hard. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was something I'd never done. I had been bullied a lot when I was a kid, and I was not a physically imposing person at all. And so this was kind of I loved it. It was just one of those things where I found out I was much stronger than I was, much tougher than I thought I had been. And so for me, it was this coming out where I was holy crap, I love this. So I got out of the schoolhouse. I graduated. I got back. I joined the teams. I got my team leader. I got my platoon sergeant and stuff. And so we went to Iraq the first time. And so a lot of the book, I would say not the bad part of the book, the part of the book that I had to write was the first deployment to Iraq was hell on wheels. It was, my platoon suffered about, I want to say it's 25 to 30% casualty rate. My team suffered 25% casualty rate, and there was only 5 of us. So it was so two of the 5 of us went home. Those got switched out. I had to watch my best friends get blowed up all the time. Yeah. And so a lot of it was just, it's a story about a kid who joins with this idea of himself, and I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know if and I told you this back to the Crucible part, I didn't know if I was a coward. I didn't know if I could stand up there, because I pretended my entire life oh, I'm so brave. And then bullets start flying, and you find out a lot about who you were. And so a lot of that kind of happens through the book. There's, I'm going to say like 2 or 3 like really traumatic stories. And then I try to pad it with a bunch of funny stories.
It's padded so well.
Cause and I got to give Ruth, my senior editor, credit for that. Cause like I had it in a different order and she reordered the book. So it kind of reads a little smoother and a little more. Cause like mine was just like a jarring punch in the face. And then it went on, and then it pretended like it never happened. Yeah, and you're just like, moving on. And you're like, so she reordered the book and a lot of stuff like that. So
I think what I read was the first version of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you read.
So the copy that you sent me, I got to go in and read it again. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, but for the most part, like, so one of my friends a while back, I'd given her a copy and she'd read it. The first book, the really sad. I was at the deepest part of my depression, PTSD. Like I was sleeping maybe once every 4 nights. Like it was bad. I was going to the VA once a week. It was bad. And she was like, after she read this, she's like, wow, that's really depressing. Like that's a terrible book. Like no offense, that's terrible. You have to have funnier stories. You have to have better funny stories. And I was like, yeah, there's a couple. And then once I started writing it, like I enjoyed boot camp. I also went in as an older man. So I was 24. So I was 24. By the time I got out of college, 23, 24, got everything ready, got set, finally shipped because I ended up, while I was in the debt, they were on a run for their, like the Marine Corps thing. They had us running on ice and I fucked my knee up real bad. Oh yeah. Like I actually had like meniscus tears and stuff. So it took me a little bit to ship and it was just a whole ordeal, but I finally got over there. So I loved boot camp. I thought it was funny. Like, cause again, as an older person who's gone through college, gone through some hard stuff already experienced it. You realize it's a game. Like you realize it's just, you can't win, just relax, have fun. My godfather at the time, had been a Marine Corps pilot. And so he went through something different than I did, but he was just like, just know that you can never win. Just know that now and it'll make your life way easier. And it was great advice. And then as I went through it, like I had some other good advice. It's like, we were called Cheshire in the book, who's really actually a good friend of mine now. Gave me some advice. I don't even think he remembers it, but he's like, be a gray man. Like, don't stand out. Don't do anything like, not in training, but like in life. He's like, just, be cool. Don't brag. Don't, whatever. Just, and if people who know me don't even know I've actually gone through all this. Like, I mean, you were in my gym for a long time and like, I never talk about this. I never like, hey, I was a badass sniper in the Marine Corps in a special operations thing. Like, because for me, that was just a thing I did. Yeah. Like, it's back here. It's all put away. And now I'm doing this. Like I was a CrossFit coach, but now I'm a writer. And so like, I very rarely talk about my past or anything like that. So it's been a weird transition, but it's just a story about me going through boot camp, infantry training, special operations training, which is its own, again, those are some of my favorite stories of the whole book. Like those are some of the funniest things I think, looking back. And then just the trauma of war, which at the time, like I think I said in the book, like I had read Vonnegut, you read Slaughterhouse-Five, you read some of these books, Farewell to Arms, all these books, and you're like, can it be that bad? Like, what is it about this that's like, and so I kind of wanted to experience it, and I did in full color and high def, and it was, my cup runneth over, and I wanted it to stop, but you're there and you're doing it, and so, and then for me, like, writing that book kind of helped me put a cage on it, when my life, I'd already gotten out, and then writing that book kind of helped me put a cage on it when like I was not doing well in life after. And I there's a few guys who I know, and we talked about this a little bit, like who I thought, oh, they handled it well, and we all got together and talked, and it was like, Jesus, no one came away unscathed. No one came away like, oh yeah, that was fine. Watching your friends die, that was fine. Like I just, or whatever. Like, and so it was this really, I'm a different person than that notch of time. Like it was a different person coming out on the other end. So it was very, I would say it's a very heartfelt, if you read this book, it's me. Yes. You know a lot more about me as a person. But then like what a day in the life of people that go through this all the time. Because I think there's a problem in this. You know, I always talk about this. I think there's a problem in this country with the problem between like a masculinity of, you know, trying to show that you're strong and the fact that you're actually crumbling and, you know, you're not doing well at all. And I think there's a huge problem with that. And we're seeing a large rise in like uptake of like, you know, veteran suicides and stuff like that. And I think it's because, and I get into this in the book, like, man, I went through some terrible shit. There was people who went through worse shit that I would talk to and listen to stories of. And you're just like, how do we get out to the other side of this? Like, how do we ever survive this? Not while we're in combat, but when we're out of combat, when we go home,
when you transition.
Yeah, I was fit as a fiddle till the day I got out of the Marine Corps. Like, I never had, not a problem, but you know, you just bury it down and you cover it over the concrete and you're like, well, gotta keep going. And then a month after I got out, it just exploded. Like, and it was hard to get back into civilian life. I remember, this isn't in the book, but like, I remember driving, it's probably like 3 weeks after I got out, and I got out abruptly. I like had to ship back early from Iraq because my time was up. So I had to ship back early, and then my whole get out was like 3 weeks and I was out. So there was not like these months and months where it was like an easy try. And no one was home because everyone was still in Iraq for my unit. So I was alone, just checking out, and then I was all of a sudden in Pennsylvania. And I remember driving at night, and there was a dead cow on the side of the road, and my mind went IED. And I took our car with my sleeping wife at the time, and I put it into a slide of just like braking. And I was like screaming, and she started screaming. She's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Now I feel foolish."
Yeah.
I thought that was a bomb. Sorry.
Right.
She's like, "Oh," you know, and it's like, and it sounds stupid to me saying it now, but at the time, like, I was there. It was real.
Yeah.
And again, like, and I wasn't even the worst of off. Like, there was people who saw a lot worse shit than me. But it's just that story of like, how do you come to that? Like, how do you grow from that? And for me, it was just catharsis. Like, I wrote the book so I could survive.
Right. And let me just tell you, okay, so you all know, my reading taste, you know what I like, you know what I don't like. I don't read military nonfiction. I don't, okay? For whatever reason, it's just something I don't gravitate to. I wanted to read Brennan's book. He offered me the opportunity to read his book, and I fucking loved it. And the reason why I loved it is because, number one, I know this man. Number two, he gives you a peek on the inside as to everything that he went through from when he was a little boy and he wanted to play war, all the way up to selection, all the way up to his time in Iraq. You are by his side, experiencing everything that he experiences. The wit, the humor, and the truth that he puts in this book is absolutely mind-blowing. The only way that I can describe it to my friends is think of a sprawling Forrest Gump type story, but focus on the main character from when he was little all the way until he gets home. It's unbelievable, and I urge everyone to give it a try. I'm telling you, if I loved it, I guarantee you'll love it too. Well done, Brennan.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm not gonna cry. But honestly, like, I see this book as having legs. I see this book, when he told me about it and I read it, and I'm like, what are you going to do with it? And he's like, I'm just going to self-publish it. And I'm like, no. I know another person in the booktube community that went with this publisher. They deal with military. You need to submit your query and see what happens. And then boom, 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 boom. And here we are.
I think one of the hard parts about military nonfiction for a lot of people is, I feel like I was a writer who joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of times what you get, because it's a genre I try to read every once in a while, because people give me books all the time, like, oh, you're in the Marine Corps. And I think a lot of the times it's a soldier then trying to learn how to write kind of quick to get all their stuff out. Because like I have one of the guys from my book, Cheshire, is like, oh, I'd really love to. He has crazy stories, like stuff that like was Black Ops until very recently. Now is like he's okay to talk about.
Yeah.
And he was telling me these things. He's like, and I don't know how to express them. And he, you know, like, and I've gotten people who, you know, military guys like, oh, I hear a writer, like, what's this? And again, it's that writing process. Like, I've spent a lifetime writing, and I've spent a lifetime, this is what I wanted to do. being a Marine was something I just kind of like fell into. And it was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to try the hardest of the hard. And I'm just going to keep going until I can. And so I think a lot of sometimes military nonfiction doesn't read well. And so that was always like, for me, the buffer, like, which is why I almost didn't want to publish it. Like, you know, cause like I, not that I don't have faith in my writing, but like, you're like, it's just just nonfiction is never my bag as much as other stuff. But sometimes it doesn't read well. Sometimes it's a hard, jarring, it just doesn't have that kind of like, almost like intense, like what you want in that book.
This has heart. It's full of heart. And when I tell you, you are laughing during some of the funniest moments you will ever read. And then towards the end, when you're in the thick of it, you are holding your breath as you are turning pages because you are right next to them. And I had to keep dialing myself in. My husband read it. And when he was reading it, I'm like, do you find yourself just not breathing? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I'm just turning pages to see what happens next. And then to remember that this happened. This is nonfiction. This is real life. And it happened to my friend. Just brings it home so much more. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. So everybody, go and support my friend Brennan. Pick up his book. Get it from the library. Get it from Kindle. Get it from Casemate. If you sign up for Casemate emails, they will give you 30% off as well. So check that out. So, Brennan, thanks so much for being my first and probably only guest on the Book Nook.
Thank you. Actually, I like this format. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, when you have another fantasy book coming out, you're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. And I will leave Brennan's information where people can check you out.
Yep.
Do you have like, website, publishing, whatever? So
I have my own like author Facebook. Paladin Press Publishing is where we kind of put most of our stuff for like this series and stuff like that. I'm not, you know this about me. I'm not a public person. No. I'm hard to find. I actually had to get pulled dragging and screaming by Casemate to like, you need to actually be on, social media. And I was like,
we're two introverts.
Yeah. Being an introverted writer does not lend itself to like, that's why I think like this was the best thing I could do for a first interview. Cause like my wife's like, do you even want to do an interview? I was like, no. Like at no point do I want to talk to anybody about anything. Like I'd be happy just to sit at home and write all day and never really interact with anyone. Like, especially like as I gotten older and as things kind of coalesce with the book. So like, it's funny because this is the perfect format for me as far as getting out there. So yeah, it's there is, I don't interact on my Facebook a whole lot. I was told multiple times, like I need to do more. And I'm like,
yeah.
Like I don't like read my book.
Right.
Right.
That's the best thing.
Read my books.
Read the book and leave a review. The best thing that you can do to support authors is purchasing their work and writing a review to let other people know how great it is.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
I have never. So, self-publishing, right? Because my Valhalla Boys hasn't been reviewed yet. I'm actually very excited for it. But when I put this out, I didn't know people actually gave 1-star reviews to anything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, holy crap. Like, for me to give a 1-star review to a product, that product had to come like in pieces, not work at all on your stuff. Mm-hmm. I was ready for some, like 2-3-star reviews. Like, wasn't well written, blah, 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 blah. I got scathing things that was like, holy shit. Why would you, like, I don't know. I guess I'm a person that like, if I didn't like a book, like I read a lot of books. Like I said, like we're like 650 for the last 6 years. If I don't like a book, I probably don't review it. I probably just like, a book has to be really terribly written for me to even give it like a 2 or 3 star. Like, it's okay. Like, not my cup of tea. But 1-star reviews is like.
I gave 1 last year. And it's in a video coming out soon.
Oh, yeah. Like for me, like, because I read a lot. Like, it has to be not edited at all. Not like whatever. And I was so surprised by some of the comments. I was just like, I don't even know how to like respond to that. Yeah. Because like I would say especially for Company of Bones, like I think I'm at like a 4.6 on Amazon and Goodreads. I think I'm at like 70% 5 stars, like all great reviews. Mm-hmm. And then I have these like 1-star reviews where I was like, did you read the book? Like, did you just not like, what did you do? And then like, I'm one of those people that like, I'll research the person, I'll like click on them. Cause I just want to know, it's like, what do you like? Right. And then it's like, oh, you don't even like my genre. Yeah. Like, you don't even like fantasy. What were you doing? But like, I don't know. The 1-star, don't leave a 1-star review unless you absolutely hate a book. Like, good God, people. Like,
here's the tip that I've gotten from a number of authors. Reviews are for readers. Not for the author.
I get it.
Reviews are
I
for
get it.
readers,
But
not for the author.
right, and I totally understand that. And as a reader, I still can't understand a 1-star review. Like I've reviewed books. I will give a 5-star review if you got me. One thing I love about the Kindle is it always ends on the review page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, 5-star, blah blah blah, and I'll actually leave you a little blurb. I just can't imagine like hating a book so much. It takes a lot. Like, and so like when it's your book, you're like, oh, I'm gonna be sick. Like, oh my God. Like that is the one thing I guess I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, oh, like, okay, I think I'm a good writer. Like, I think I'm pretty technical. And then some of the reviews are just like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So prepare yourself for that. If you're gonna be a writer, prepare yourself for some harsh words that you might not agree with. Some of them I do agree with. Actually, I will say this, like, I do read the reviews because I think some of the points are valid. And I know they're for readers and stuff like that. But sometimes I just like to read the reviews just to see not only the good, because it's nice to read a good review, but maybe I didn't do something as well as I thought I did. And it's some reviewers, like some reviewers have given me 3 stars and because of this. And you're like, oh. So I started talking to one of my editors about it and they're like, yeah, I could see that. And you're like, oh, I wish you brought this up a little earlier. But like, all right, so for the next book, let's make sure that's fixed. Let's sure we, make that kind of a little better thing. So it's not terrible, but I was not ready for 1-star reviews, I guess. Like, cause that's like, the thing is broken beyond like repair for me. And
you just have to take it. Well, I say take it with a grain of salt.
100%.
And no review or a bad review, a 1-star review is better than no review. Someone's giving you feedback.
Sure.
It's
Great.
tough. It's tough.
It is. It's so tough.
But someone is giving you feedback and, disclaimer, you know what you're walking into if you're going to read it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So everyone, do all the things. Do check out Brennan's book. Check out Company of Bones too if you are a fantasy one.
I mean, it's gotten really good reviews, and I like the genre, and so I set out to write something in the genre that fit. Without falling into the same cliches, because the one thing about fantasy is it's becoming wildly popular, which is also one of the reasons it's hard to be published in it.
I still don't want to read it.
Yeah, right, and that's fine. But so many people are writing it that it tends to kind of fall into a formula, and so that's the danger of I think of certain genres is you don't want to fall into that formula of like, oh, I already know how this ends. You ever read a book that like two pages in, you're like, that's the bad guy, that's what happened. You're like.
Yes.
There's a lot of like not true crime, but it's crime books or like I love Jack Reacher. I love Jack Reacher books, but they are the same book over and over. Like as soon as you start, you're like, okay, this guy's the bad guy. That's gonna happen. And I love them. Yeah. But I just want to see how it plays out. But it's the same book. And it's hard to like break away from that and get a really novel new experience for people. And that's why I was actually really pleased with how that came out.
Cool. Awesome. All right, everybody. So you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, comment down below. Let me know. Are you interested in reading Brennan's work? Let me know what you liked about this format, and I will see you in my next video. Take care, everybody.